if I told you Adam was not the first human and the real first human was a god?
Well, if you told me that, I would ask, well, how is the first person a god, and what's the evidence that this is true and more reliable than the Bible?
See, our story begins at the very top of reality. Not with some bearded old man on a throne like some kind of cosmic Santa.
Oh, God isn't described that way. He's a spirit, and Jesus is the image of the invisible God, but even he isn't described that way.
But with an infinite living light that no physical eye can ever see. The secret book of John calls this ultimate source of everything the One.
Man, I was hoping you wasn't going to use a forgery. For those of you that don't know, the secret book of John, more commonly known as the Aprocriphon of John, is not a reliable text at all. It was written like 150 years after the events of Jesus took place, whereas the canonical manuscripts are all dated back to the 1st century. It also claims to be written by John, but it directly contradicts all of John's theology. And the early church explicitly rejected it as hearsay because John didn't write it.
So this true God, also called the One or the invisible spirit, is totally beyond words, beyond concepts.
Perfect. Yahweh is also transcendent, but here's the difference. Yahweh is personal, which means he can reveal himself to creation, but the One is not personal, which means he cannot reveal himself at all because he's not personal. So to claim to know anything about the One at all is an impossibility because one, humans cannot conceptualize it, so we can't figure it out ourselves, and it cannot reveal itself because it's not personal.
So it reflects on itself and contemplates. Each thought it has becomes like a living being.
Actually, more than that, each reflection creates a God. And because the One's thoughts are so infinite and vast, it is infinitely reflecting, which means it is infinitely creating gods. And in Gnosticism, they try to create a hierarchy to avoid just complete chaos, but that doesn't solve the problem because it's still infinite. And every single resulting God is a created being, which means it's not a God. And let's grant that divine beings can be created. Now we're in polytheism, which directly contradicts John.
Okay, and his first thought is called Barbelo, and she's not some dainty assistant angel, she's the mother. She's literally the first thought of reality. So what happens next? It says the father looked into Barbelo, but what that means is that the mind thinks about its first thought, and that generates the child.
The child is supposed to be Yahweh, like a lesser God that creates the material world, but he created it flawed and all this, that, and the third. And the father is supposed to be the One itself.
The first perfect human appeared through the power of the Father, the Mother, and the child, the autogenes. This was a direct projection of the highest mind in the universe through awareness, intention, and will. His name is Adamus. See, the first human wasn't a sinner. He was a light bringer.
That was very interesting. Tag me in anything else you want to see me react to or send it to my DMs. But whatever happens, remember, Jesus loves you. I love you. Stay blessed.